Grace Baptist Church, location, please.
Shall we pray? Our great God in heaven, we are prone to forget to thank you for the many blessings that you've bestowed upon this country, the blessings of liberty and freedom, and the freedom to worship as we want, and the freedom to be self-governed. And Lord, as we remember what was said at the Constitutional Convention, that if a sparrow cannot fall from the heaven without the Lord's knowledge, neither can a nation rise without his aid. Lord, we forget so often that we're still dependent on thee and on your wisdom. We pray tonight that you'd give wisdom to these who make decisions that will affect the lives of others, and that through it all we would be strengthened and go on and be able to continue to serve you in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Roll call.
Allen.
Here.
Barrington.
Here.
Charks. Smith. Sabers.
Here.
Rice.
Here.
Dosher. McCardle.
We have a quorum. Approval of consent agenda items. Items appearing on the consent agenda may be removed by a council member for discussion at the beginning of the formal agenda items. Is there anything you'd like to remove?
I've got one question. The towing agreement is on here.
Yep.
Under that, the question I have, does the new rules of training and the number of tow trucks put any current people out of business or compliance? And why have we had issues, and that's why we're updating it? Is there any back? I mean, I read the information, but
We've been working on a handshake agreement up until now.
okay.
And Mr. Still thought it was better to have a written agreement, which I agree with him. So he and Mr. Johnson put this together.
Okay.
And brought it into the council for discussion.
Does it-
And I'll let Glenn speak to this, but one thing that has been added is some security. There were no requirements for security at the facilities that were towing for the city.
Okay.
And that was a bit of a concern for vandalism, damage, and those kinds of things.
And so it might, I mean,
So-
these changes might put some current people, they wouldn't be approved?
Well,
Steve,
they've
just a suggestion here, just talking with Glenn, I was wondering if we can pull that item out of the consent agenda and just address it as part of the regular agenda.
Okay,
Oh.
we could do that.
Okay,
There were just some, I guess, some missing information on there that Glenn wanted to address, so I thought that would be better.
okay. So I'll move approval of consent agenda with removing item J. And where do you want to put it, Mayor?
How about, let's put it right after we approve the consent agenda.
Okay. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to address these items? Roll call, please.
Smith.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, approve a towing agreement. Discussion on that.
Ready.
I think they're trying to get it up on the computer. In essence, what they've done is they've added some security to that, a requirement for security. Now, they've given 6 months to either put a fence in, or we also add language that allows surveillance cameras.
Okay.
So,
There was the requirement of being able to have at least 2 tow trucks at one time to do 2 items at once, and then some training requirements for some of them. And so do we know the status of who complies and doesn't comply to that?
I think everybody can comply with that, can they not, Mr. Spill?
Mayor, Council, yeah, as far as I know, everybody can comply. There were just some verbally, Assistant Chief Coster and I, he's had more contact with them, that we've had that accomplished. Sorry. And we don't really see really have heard no negative responses.
Okay. That's what
a set price? Can they charge whatever they want, or can they? Because I've heard of one guy that got stuck in the flood, and they charged, some got charged $900 for a tiller.
Well, that's kind of why we did this.
Yeah.
There was some, we heard a little bit about that. But we have towing and storage rates listed under item 24 on the contract. What can be charged, what motor assists, connect fees, and it goes on down for a couple pages there. You can see the language. We kind of copied this after the city of Sioux Falls. We took their contract and kind of made it, with the help of the city attorney, fit our needs, what we thought would be best.
And there were some high charges. People weren't charging the same, as I understand it, correct? Some were higher than others. This puts a uniformity to it.
And
Yeah.
that's a uniformity that's when city requests, correct? Or ticket in tow?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, what they do individually with
It's up to them.
John Citizen is up to them. This is if we ticket tow them.
I'll move approval of the, what do we want to call this? The
Towing agreement.
towing
Just-
agreement, item J?
1 second, Steve. I think Glenn had one other issue that he spotted
Okay.
that, in relation to the the truck requirements.
Initially in there, we had, and I think it must have got left off one of our copies, that I think one of the trucks needed to be greater than 26,001 pounds, so it could haul some bigger vehicles. Assistant Chief Coster, is that where we had that initial? We had that, yes. And on this version, it doesn't appear for some reason. So we can make that adjustment here now if you'd like, or I can bring it back next council, more of a completed, have it spelled out better.
I guess under section 11 is where we'd be looking. That's where it lays out the truck requirements. So I guess if Glenn has the weight requirement, or he can recite that here, and you want to adopt that change, you can approve it with that change, and I can revise that language, or we can bring it back in 2 weeks with the revised language, whichever you prefer.
Well, if we have the language, I guess I'd move to add it to item 11, and then, so then when we bring it back, it's already in there, if we know what that,
If you want to approve it tonight, you can with that weight restriction.
okay. Yes, I would.
Otherwise, if you want us to bring it back in 2 weeks with a corrected version, we can do that.
If we
whichever
bring it
you
back in
prefer.
2 weeks, does it then make it go another meeting? Oh, we got a question in the back too, so if you,
This is just a resolution, so it's only one meeting.
Okay.
so.
State your name, please.
I'm Randy Kurth. I'm with Burn ID Towing and Recovery. If you go to that 2,601 pounds, we can't find drivers. You're requiring everybody to have a CDL, and it's hard to find a tow truck driver the way it is right now.
You mean for the 26,001 pound?
and
Anything
above,
above that, you can't find drivers.
Can't find drivers, you know.
Understand that.
I think you should leave the weight the way it is. Everybody on their own tow trucks, they know how much they can carry. I mean,
That's their business.
I know how much I can carry on my truck. You go out on a scene, I'm Rec Master certified. Went to schooling. You calculate everything out when you get out on the scene. You just basically got it in your head. You know what you can carry, you know what you can't carry. We do have 2 trucks now. There's times we go with both trucks because we don't know what we're gonna come on to. You know, there's times we go out with both trucks. Do we charge for both trucks? Not always. But a lot of times if you got a guy 50, 60 feet out in the ditch, a rollback ain't made to recovery work. I've been doing it for 7 years with the Vern ID truck, and our truck is getting tired, our rollback. So we bought a recovery truck. So. But I'm just saying, if you go to that weight level, it's hard to find drivers. I got a cousin in Sioux Falls runs Ready Towing. He can't find a driver for his heavy trucks.
So why don't you guys figure out what wording that you want and bring it back then?
Actually, it looks like we figured it out. It was a difference.
Okay,
We were getting some sections mixed up here. So section 11 in the original did not include that, but it is included under the different fees. So if somebody does charge it, or does take a tow where it's over that weight, there's a different rate that applies. So go down just a little bit more. There you go.
And
So you get medium duty and heavy duty tows. So it should still be good as is. There was just some confusion about which section that was in.
So you're not requiring them to have
Have one.
a bigger
Right,
truck?
right.
You're just
It's the-
increasing the rate
If
if
they
they
do heavy
require
duty.
one?
It's just the rates if there is one.
Okay,
In,
very good.
in that class.
okay,
Yeah, okay. Very good.
okay.
That work?
Randy,
See any problems with that?
you see any problems with this up here?
We're not requiring you to have a bigger truck, but if they require a tow from a bigger truck, the rate goes up.
Okay. Okay, then I'll,
Just wanted to make sure your question or your concern was addressed.
then I'll move approval of the towing agreement.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion?
Thank you.
Sorry about the confusion.
Anybody else wish to address this? Come on up.
Are we still on the towing stuff?
Yes.
I had the one question about, I guess there was one deal in there about the after hours would be 7 o'clock.
State your name.
I'm Kyle Craigo from Dick's Towing,
Okay.
Dick's Body Shop. But there was like, the after hours wouldn't start until after 7 o'clock, and I thought that was kind of unreasonable. It should be like 5:30. That's the way it always was before. They have an after hour charge and day charge or whatever, so it changes from 125 to 150, so it makes a difference, you know. And we consider after hours at 5:30 actually, and they have it in here at 7 for some reason, 7 in the morning. I don't know where they cover 7 at night. But, I don't know if that can be.
Where are you seeing that?
Right here, right under 24 here. Friday, 7 PM to 7 AM, and all day Saturday and Sundays would be after hours. I think that should be, the 7 AM might be all right, but the 7 PM.
Makes sense.
So you want 5:30 PM to 7
5,
AM?
5:30 or somewhere, I mean, the normal business hours for most places.
However the council wants, makes no difference to me.
Where are we at right now? You said 5:30?
I think the old one was at about 5:30 or something. I don't remember. I should
that I
have
don't
a
know.
copy with it, but it
I-
was 5
There
or
was,
5:30.
don't think there was really an old one.
Well, we had a little city contract, yeah, before. It had most of these rates and stuff on it, so it was similar.
Yes.
Oh, you got a copy of the old one?
Yeah, Mike Coster, Assistant Chief. I actually do have a copy of the record minutes from the last one that we were working off of, and the hours that were set in that were exactly as they are in the new contract. So we used those hours from that handshake gentleman's agreement that we've been operating under for years. That's why we went with that. That's just what we've been using.
I would be in favor of backing it down, because normal, you don't expect somebody to be open at 7 at night.
You know, 5:30?
That seems more reasonable. I don't know what you guys are thinking.
All right. So change to 5:30,
Agreeable,
after 5.
agreeable from me from the motion.
Okay. So we have a motion by Mr. Rice, seconded by Mr. Barrington. We're going to amend it to be 5:30 PM to 7 AM.
I just had one more thing, sorry.
That's how
The,
it works.
they had the background checks in there. I didn't know, since we've had drivers on for 20 years, I didn't know if they'd be required for our drivers that have been on for 20
I
years.
think that's
or-
for anybody
New?
going here forward, would it not be? Background check?
Should be grandfathered in, these guys.
Yeah.
The intent would be for new employees.
New employees.
New employees, okay, that'd be fine, yep, I'm fine with that, so.
Okay. Anybody else want to address it?
I guess there is one more thing on here. we're literally just out of, we're just out of city limits, actually, between Parksville, our next business to us, and we are out of city limits, and in here it states that need to be a business in city limits.
Actually, we looked and we had you in the city limits.
Well, we pay county tax, so we're not, we pay city or whatever, so.
Not anymore.
It don't matter to me, I don't get, it just gets passed
So when
on.
you get your bill,
But yeah, that was one thing, was kind of, we're basically across the street, city limits, and.
actually, we had
we're
that
kinda
concern.
buried.
We looked and you were shown in the city limits. but
Really?
We'll research that.
Well, somebody better figure it out, because we kind of just cut 4.5 tax on everything we do, so that's what we've always done, the county tax, so. So it's
So
been
you
that
owe
way.
us- So you owe us a little bit of sales
Yeah,
tax.
maybe.
Our attorney will come see you tomorrow. No, we'll look into it a little farther.
Yeah,
Okay?
we can. and
We
can
thought
get
you
that
were
right.
in the city limits when we looked it up.
Michelle just had a point that usually if a business is located in the city limits, they'll catch that on the sales tax reporting, so something must not be.
The Department of Revenue should catch that, they're not reporting the city. So they might be. It's split, I think, between Parts World and us is right where the split is.
Okay, so whoever's got the, on the county website is off. Go figure. Because that was one of the concerns.
Yeah, we want to include them,
Um,
right?
Yes. Yeah, it wasn't our intent to exclude you. We thought you were in the city limits. Want to get annexed?
And now the discussion begins.
Let's not go there tonight.
So,
How do, Mr. Attorney, how do we handle that? Can we put it within a X amount of feet or miles of city limits?
or,
Well, really, we're within that 1 mile where we have to go through county and city for most of our stuff.
yeah.
You're within the 3 mile, yeah, you would have to.
Where are you seeing the requirement for city limits?
It's in there. I don't remember where it was. You remember where that was, Glenn?
Location of business, item 14. No,
On what?
no, it's not there.
Well, there's other stuff in here too.
Oh, then the storage facility will be located within the city limits of Mitchell under item 14? Is that just the storage facility?
Can we say within the 1 mile jurisdiction of the city limits?
The second sentence on the first paragraph there?
Oh, yeah, number 14, yeah, that's where it's at.
Yeah, right there. Storage facility will be located within the city limits. Within city. Okay. Is that acceptable? You two?
Acceptable to me. Anything else from the audience?
Got anything else you want to come up here with before we close this out? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Citizens input. If you need to address the mayor or members of the city council on an item that was not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium, state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken this time. Is there anybody that wishes to address council?
And I got one. Did we change our ways on how they were notified of when they, snow removal?
Yes, and I was going to bring that up.
I got,
Thanks for reminding me, Mr. Croce. Nixle can no longer be used for that as it used to be because that is a law enforcement emergency thing. So, Mr. Croce, can you speak to how you do that currently?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor and Council. So citizens are able to get to the website and sign up and be notified through email. That's the way they could be notified and sign up. It's under the Public Works Department, but the Nixle is for public safety use only.
So there is a way to be notified via,
The city website, I can show you right on here where it goes through. We did do a press release on the changes when they went into effect. If someone is interested, they can just click on this notify me, and they go down to the alert center, and they can sign up for snow removal alerts. They can either get an email or a text message. Those automatically are also, we have something on the back end of the website that also pushes it out to the city's social media, so it goes on to Facebook too if you follow that site.
Did you need to address this under public commentary?
Just for citizen input, is that where you're at?
Yep.
Perfect. Doug Greenway, Director of the Rolls Only Corn Palace. I wanted to use the public forum to both invite the City Council and the Mayor to Christmas at the Palace tomorrow night, 4 to 7 p.m. And I wanted to publicly thank our sponsors, which I think it's worth them being recognized. So this is not a new event, but the City Council and Mayor have supported it over the years. So 4 to 7, Santa's going to be in the Corn Palace. Chili feed provided for those that arrive for limited amounts of chili, but I think there's enough for 1,500 or so folks. So thank you to both City Council, Mayor, Coca-Cola for the drinks. The Northwestern Energy is providing the Christmas cookies. And then we want to publicly thank Petrick Sanitation, Larry and Kay Petrick, who have generously supported our new 2019 Christmas Song and Light Show, which will be playing on the Corn Palace. And we'll kick that off during the light parade at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. And that'll play every evening during the holiday season, unless there's a basketball game going on, where we'll put the school colors up. So I wanted to publicly thank those folks for the support of the Christmas at the Palace event tomorrow night. So we'd welcome you and your friends and family and the community to come out. Thank you.
And a reminder, tomorrow night is the Parade of Lights.
Yeah, Steve Harms. I'm in favor of the one-way streets, to keep them one-way streets. Several years ago, several of us got together and went and collected petitions to put it on the ballot. We had it on the ballot and had election of the people. Over 60% voted in favor of keeping them one-way streets. I guess I believe if they want to change it to two-way, who's ever in favor of two-way should also have to go get a ballot and put it on the election just like we had to get it left at one-way.
And I'll echo that. I've been contacted by 3 different people wanting to know when 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Avenue will be changed back to one-way now that the construction is done. We've had a little discussion of the construction being done. Does that mean just phase 1 being done, or does that mean phase 2 also being done? And I'll put in my 2 cents. My understanding was that when phase 1 was done, we would revisit the two-way streets on 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And I guess I would like to see that put as a traffic agenda item for the next meeting.
Okay, we can do that. The thing about doing it, we're going to have a lot of cross streets obviously closed next year,
During
phase 2.
Yep. And
So it would obviously relieve a lot of congestion if we could do them two-way, at least do that.
I agree, but I think we need to have that in an open discussion, and that people understand and can voice their pros, cons, concerns, or whatever.
We'll put it on the next agenda. Anybody else wish to address council? Board of Adjustment, entertain a motion for the City Council to recess and sit as the Board of Adjustment.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. McCardle. Discussion. Anybody nice wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing 12/16/2019. The Cat's Meow LLC, Linda Christensen applicant, Sanborn Reynolds LLC owner, have applied for conditional use permit to operate an animal hospital, clinic, boarding shelter, and training business at the property located at 701 South Sanborn Boulevard, legally described as Lot 1, Block 6 at Van Epps. First addition to the City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Property is zoned highway business.
Move to set the date.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Reconvene the city council, entertain a motion for the Board of Adjustment to adjourn and reconvene the city council in regular session.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Rice. Second by Mr. McCardle. Discussion. Anybody in the audience wish to address? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearings and actions on the following alcohol licenses. On application of Corn Palace Shrine Club for a special event, liquor license located at the Masonic Temple for December 21st, 2019 for a wedding.
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. McCardle.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Any issues with this, Mr. Still? Anybody in the audience wish to address? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. An application of Corn Palace Shrine Club for a special event liquor license located in the Masonic Temple for December 31st, 2019 for a New Year's Eve party.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Any problem with this, Mr. Still?
No, no problem.
Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve application for renewal of a liquor license for iMart Stores LLC doing business as iMart Stores Mitchell.
This one was just left off when we did the other ones?
The paperwork wasn't back in time.
Okay. Move approval.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Mr. Stills, you got a problem with this one? We're okay with it?
No. No, we're
All right. Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve temporary road closure on 6th between Main Street and Raleigh Street. Mr. Croce, you want to speak to this?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor and Council. So this is a request that comes through the Chamber of Commerce for a re-roofing project. The contractor is requesting the northbound side of the roadway, the westbound lane, to be closed between December 4th, that's after the parade of lights, through at the most the following Friday of December 13th. And the city traffic division will also help with signage on sidewalk and lane road closures.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion? Mr. Box, you sure you want a new roof?
You should see how bad it's leaking today.
Anybody else in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve the request by a resident for a stop sign controlled intersection at the corner of West 3rd Avenue and North Wisconsin. Mr. Croce.
Mr. Mayor and Council, so this request came last city council meeting, and we looked into the crash data that we had and the warrant through MUTCD, the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Device. So the way it reads is the crash data, I'll go to the last paragraph on the agenda request, and that crash data indicates that 5 or more crashes that involved in the failure to yield the right-of-way at the intersection under normal right-of-way rule have been reported within a 3-year period, or that 3 or more such crashes have been reported within a 2-year period. So we did, the police department, public safety did pull the crash data. I believe it was July. We go back, it's July of 2017, then July of 2019, and November of 2019. So it looks like they fall outside, so it would not technically be warranted. If you look at the map that's provided, and we do have quite a few intersections that are uncontrolled within the city limits, so you could make the argument that we could go strictly by the MUTCD warrant criteria. However, if you look at the north-south corridor on Wisconsin, it is heavily signed between 1st and 7th. So you could also make the argument to say that a sign is warranted, not strictly by MUTCD warrant standards.
before you ask your question, please come up. I've got one. So the timing of those accidents, 3rd was one way during those times?
That's correct.
Okay.
Except for this year. So the
Yeah.
2 crashes that were this year, it was not.
July and November, right?
July and November were not.
They would have been two-way.
Right, correct.
Hi, I'm Deb Kapp. My husband and I were the ones who made the request before. The accident in 2017 involved a handicap accessible van. I was actually working at the computer when I heard the accident first. I looked up and I saw it flying into our tree. A few weeks later, we saw in the newspaper where they were requesting help, a fundraiser, because the van had been totaled. The one on the 4th of July of this year, one vehicle hit a tree in front of our house. It ruined the bottom of it. We've wrapped it and tried to save it. The second vehicle ended up on the sidewalk between the fire hydrant and our house. This last accident actually was a brand-new pickup that still had dealer licenses on it. It lost its axle. It was shoved up onto the curb, hit the fire hydrant, and knocked it over.
Broke it off.
Yeah, it broke it off. And the car itself that hit it was totaled. That intersection, they drive horribly fast. And we have a family with 3 children at one corner. We have a daycare center within half a block. We've got other families with young children in the area. It's dangerous. We really would like you to consider doing something about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see a negative to a stop sign. Slows people down, it takes minutes, it's safer. I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Sabers to approve.
Mr. Mayor and Council, just for clarification, is that a 2-way stop like the rest of the corridor on Wisconsin, or a 4-way stop at 3rd in Wisconsin?
What was that?
Two-way?
Oh, two-way.
So in essence, you're stopping Wisconsin, is that right? Or 3rd?
Wisconsin, correct.
Or do you want 4-way, everybody stops?
No, fifth don't have 4-way. No, a 2-way stop, yes.
Okay, 2-way stop. Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Sabers for a 2-way stop. Second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion?
It's going to be a little difficult, to not approve this one, but I think it makes some sense because of the fact that it does have existing controls along Wisconsin, and it's consistent. For the future, we won't be able to afford to put a stop sign in every intersection.
No.
But I think this one does have some merit, and I'm going to support it. And once you start that of falling outside of the guidelines, we better have some type of reasoning behind it. To me, this is my reasoning. I don't know about you guys.
I can say, the streets out in my area have stop signs, and yes, they stop for them, but then they speed to the next corner. So I don't know that they do what they're really intended, but I don't have any problem with it. Okay, further discussion? Anybody else in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve agreement A 2019-50, purchase agreement with the First United Methodist Church. It was tabled from 11/18/2019 meeting. Mr. Johnson, are you going to speak to this? This is basically the lot to the north of the Methodist Church where the apartment building, if you will be demolished.
Right, and I don't have a whole lot of detail other than that. I will just, I guess for council's information and the public's information, there were a few additional changes made between the version that came to council at the last meeting where it was tabled, and then we brought it back this time. Really, there was just a little bit more detail that the church wanted added in relation to the option that the church is going to maintain, a little bit more information about the parking area, some language about the demolition of the current structure. And I guess if there's any questions on those, I can try to walk you through that a little bit, but it was just trying to clean up that language a little bit more from the way it was originally presented.
You worked with the church and Mr. Thieler on this?
Correct. That Jack Thieler with Morgan Thieler's office worked with me on this as well as Denny Robinson with the church.
So if this goes through, the timing of the demolition and then the city reconstructing or making a parking lot at the location of the current empty apartment would be in our 2020 construction
Yeah, so
timeframe?
actually, the demolition, I believe, is going to be beginning it might have actually started today. I think they were starting to set up, and they'll be doing it sometime this week.
Okay.
That part of it's really outside of the city's part of this.
Okay.
The intent would be for when the city takes it over, it's just going to be a bare lot.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I'm Denny Robinson. I'm the chairman of the trustees for the United Methodist Church. I have with me tonight Senior Pastor Keith Nelson, Brett Stahl, and John Claggett from the church. The only difference there is between this week and when we had tabled was a question on access. And we're well satisfied with the agreement. Been working with Mr. Thaler and Mr. Johnson, so we're well aware what the agreement says and what we plan to do.
Very good. Thank you.
Well, I'll move approval of 2019-50, the purchase of that.
Okay, have a motion by Mr. Rice.
Steve, did you say the revised, there's two versions attached. Just want to make sure you're approving the revised version.
Yes, the revised version. Second.
Second by Mr. Allen. Okay, further discussion? Anybody else in the audience want to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Agreement A 2019-51, an agreement between the state of South Dakota and the city of Mitchell for FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Assistant application for the Ash Street Property Acquisition Project. Mr. Croce.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is an agreement for application approval or to enter into an application for a FEMA hazard mitigation grant. And so this property has had a history of flooding, is within the floodplain of the Dry Run Creek area, has flooded in the 80s and also during this last storm event. This program through FEMA is a 75-25 match, so the local match is estimated at $12,400 based on the assessment. So this application would go through. We would also try to utilize as much as in-kind to meet that match for utility removal, demolition, and landfill fees. The city would take ownership of the property, and the resident would be relocated.
How come just that home in that area?
So right now, it's a voluntary program
Okay.
with the residents. So they're aware of it through FEMA, and they do come to us as a partner on this program.
Okay, very good.
So it was initiated by the resident.
Entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen.
Second.
Second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion? If anybody in the audience wishes to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Resolution R 2019-94, resolution appointing applicant agent for hazard mitigation program. I'm guessing that's me, huh, Mr. Croce?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
that just allows me to apply for the grant.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action on resolution R 2019-91, dissolving tax increment district number 10. Ms. Alwine.
Just a couple things I wanted to share just with council and the general public on this tax district. Hold on, I had it pulled up over here and I didn't put it on the right screen. The area that the TIF was in was south of the interstate, in the outlots around Cabela's. And I believe when Michelle and I looked up the property boundaries, it included one of these properties to the south of Spruce Street as well. We dissolved the TIF district when the debt has been paid off that was committed as part of the issuance of the TIF. A couple things that I just wanted to point out was that TIF number 10 was created in 2008, and therefore it was paid off in 2019, so that was 11 years after its creation. The equalized base value when we started was $6,435,000 and some odd change, and then the 2017 equalized value was $12,581,985, which means the TIF supported an increment, or that growth, the increased value of roughly just over $6.1 million and was paid off in 11 years. The reason why I bring that up is that when we have conversations about future TIFs, that's what they're designed to do, is aid in that future development. Now that the increment, or now that the TIF has been paid off and dissolved, you'll see that assessed value going back onto the tax rolls as growth next year, and then we're no longer going to pay off the debt service associated with the TIF. It gets added into the normal tax base. Any other questions about that I can answer, but I thought it was good to point out the growth and value in the TIF as you consider the dissolving the increment district.
So all the new, there's some lots out there, platted land, so anything that's building on that will be taxed on it now too for property taxes, so in the future. And I think there's 3 or 4 lots out there.
I think at least 3 or 4. A couple years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, they came in and replatted several along the entrances to Cabela's.
Yep.
But I don't think they've sold yet.
So that'd be future property tax.
Growth.
Yep.
Growth for the city of Mitchell. And county and school.
Move to approve 2019-91. Oh, there you go, right there's the.
Yep, there they are.
Just took me a little bit, sorry.
Motion by Mr. Rice. Second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action on resolution R 2019-82. A resolution approving the 2020 compensation plan for the city of Mitchell.
Mayor and council members, included in your packet was the 2020 wage resolution. State law requires that the city council set the wages for each position before the start of the year. The wage resolution, or the salary resolution, includes the agreed to wages that were part of the annual, or the negotiations with the city's three union contracts: Teamsters, IAFF, and AFSCME general employees. The resolution includes a 3% increase to the full-time wage ranges. It goes into effect 1/1/20. The only other change to the resolution from previous years was the city council did authorize adding a personal trainer, make sure I say that right this time, onto the payroll. That one is fully funded by grant funds and additional revenue that comes in. The caveat that the council put on that position is that it was dependent on continued funding to support the position. So that is included into the job description as well as the posting for the position.
Thank you for putting that
Yep.
on there like that.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Barrington,
Second.
second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action on Resolution R 2019-93, a plat of Lot 21 of the replat of Track Day Wild Oak Golf Club addition to the City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota.
Mayor and council, this plat was presented to the planning commission at their last meeting and did recommend approval. You probably looks a little familiar from last time. It's just the one that's right next to it. The last time you did 20, I believe, so.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Second reading of ordinance O 2019-26, an ordinance that changes the zoning district classification of the real property legally described as Lot 8 and west half of Lot 9 and south half of vacated alley Block 4, Green Ridge Addition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota, from R1 single-family residential to R4 high-density residential.
You may recall this was the Jim Radke's property in the Green Ridge Edition and the extra large lot, and he wishes to construct a duplex there. Have not heard anything since that time, so no neighborhood opposition or anything like that.
Place on second reading.
Motion by Mr. Allen, place on second reading. Second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Rice to adopt. Second by Mr. Savers. Any further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? Roll call, please.
Sabers. Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries. First reading on ordinance O 2019-27, supplemental appropriations. Ms. Owen?
And I need to point out that we've made an addition to this from the one that was presented in the packet. I'll pull that up on the board. I believe Michelle also handed those out to council members this morning or this afternoon. Included in your packet was a copy of the ordinances. These two items were not included in the last supplemental appropriation ordinance because they weren't known to me when we did that ordinance. The first one is Public Works, and that's a nuisance abatement cost for 2 nuisance properties that Public Works is currently working on. This is coming out of general fund cash balance. The difference would be that there would be a special assessment for one of the nuisance abatements, so that will be paid back to the city over time. The second abatement has a settlement agreement attached to it, and that's at First and Main, so we'll be receiving those through a monthly payment, not through the assessment process like we do the other abatements. The second item listed there for out of the E911 fund, we're taking that out of cash reserves in E911. As for 2 repairs that were emergency that had to be done, one is radio equipment on a tower, communication tower, and the second one is the mini split unit that goes in the server room. They had a failure with their cooling system there, and with all the servers in there, you have to keep it at a certain temperature. So it has all the 911 dispatch and server housed in that room, so we had to get the mini split installed. So that would cover that expense. These wouldn't be like the other ones because they are actually coming from cash balance, not from other designated revenue.
Stephanie, does that equipment that was damaged, is that an insurance claim?
I believe that the tower may be, I can't remember if we were over the deduction limit. Yeah, I think the tower was 7,000 and the deduction is 5,000 is our standard deduction. So it didn't make sense for us to submit it to insurance. But I know that they were looking at maybe lowering those deductibles on those items in the future, so.
Mr. Pratt, you want to address this?
Well, I'm not sure when to interrupt, but I believe I'm part of the nuisance one. Is that correct? I'm the right, that's the right one?
I don't know.
A small portion of that $92,000 could potentially go towards Mr. Patton's property at East Havens. We don't have an exact dollar amount, but there's a portion of that was added to make sure that the funds would be available in the budget.
The majority of that 92,000, I believe, is the First and Main property, correct?
Okay.
Correct.
Had me nervous for a minute. And with mine, I inherited some of this. I purchased it 4 years ago, and you know which one it is. And I'm working, I've done more in the last 2 years than anything's happened in 15 years. And I'm doing it, if I can get a little time in and work with it, I'd be glad to keep working at it. So maybe I'm not, this is what we're addressing right now, but I'm just not sure when to say it, so.
Yeah, not exactly, but I
Okay,
appreciate
sorry.
the work that you've
Sorry.
been doing, Greg, and
Okay.
I did try to reach out to your attorney earlier today. I know you don't like running that bill up either, so I'll try to keep those conversations
I
brief,
can
too.
talk to you again later then. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. And again, the First and Main property gets reimbursed to the city over time, so, the demo, which is about $82,000. Okay.
Move to approve first reading of supplemental appropriation with the updated information.
Motion to approve by Mr. Rice. Second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Excuse me. Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion to approve first reading, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. First reading on ordinance 2019-28, ride service company insurance requirements, fees, and fines. As we progressed, you remember we brought this to you a while ago, and we increased the liability limit to $1 million. And in doing so, Mr. Streetman came forward and said, hey, I've gotten pricing on this, and it actually increased his liability insurance by about $7,000 a year. At least the quote he provided to me was in that neighborhood. So he asked if we would revisit it. As you know, I sent you all an email regarding that, and we've had a discussion. You've come back to me with various questions and whatnot on emails. I will point out, Mr. Johnson feels $300,000 is lower than it should be. Most cities, and Mr. Streetman, he's done a lot of footwork on this. I appreciate that, Art. Brought forth several city codes, Aberdeen, Watertown, and Yankton, and they actually are at $500,000 versus $300,000, which I'm sure is an increase in cost, but is far better than the $1 million cost. So, you know, Mr. Streetman charges $7 a ride?
Correct.
So $7,000 increase means he's got to take 1,000 riders on just to break even on the insurance, which, you know, we are not trying to drive somebody out of business here, which is why we're bringing this back. You want to add anything, Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, I will. And just so the council understands why it was set back at $1 million when the changes were done a few months ago, that was essentially because the state provides several different insurance limits that apply to transportation network companies. The largest one of those is when there is a rider actively engaged in a transportation, and that does provide that there would be $1 million general liability coverage in place. So it was an effort to keep that equal among both the transportation network companies and the vehicle for hires. I guess in my view, $300,000 was insufficient. $500,000 is probably still insufficient, but it's better. And I do agree that most of the other cities in the state that have set a limit do set theirs at $500,000. I still think $1 million is appropriate, but it's a council decision to make. Just some history on our ordinance. It looks like back in 2011, the ordinance was changed to put a $1 million limit in place. It stayed at $1 million for general liability for about 4 years. And then in 2015, it was changed from $1 million to $300,000. And then when the change was made a few months ago, it went back up to a $1 million limit, and now whatever you guys want to do here in the next couple of weeks.
On observation, a $7,000 increase to have a $1 million coverage seems a little severe. And at $500,000, would your increase be half of that, or do you have a quote
I don't
On
have
the
a
half.
quote for that.
And I don't know how many agents Mr. Streetman's talked to, but I do know that we've had other providers that were not looking at a significant increase like that. It was a $700 increase, so just for what it's worth.
Do any other providers have some input on how their insurance rate might be affected? Maybe we don't have anybody here.
Doug Greenway, D&J Fund Bus LLC, so we're one of the applicants for 2020 license, and so that was a surprise to me to see it go from 300,000 to $1 million. I was actually at 500,000 last year, and that increase for me was just under $300 to go from 500,000 to $1 million. That's just one vehicle, but a larger vehicle, 20-passenger transportation bus. So 19.5% increase for me as well, which is a couple of events, but certainly not as extreme as what Easy Ride experienced.
If I may, we have 5 vehicles.
State your name, just.
Oh, Art Streetman, owner of Easy Ride Taxi. And we currently have 5 vehicles. 4 of them are licensed to run. I was hoping to get the 5th one licensed, but it's going to depend on what the council decides here tonight. If we don't make a change here, I'll have to reduce my staff. I will limit the vehicles probably to 3. That means if one's in the garage, I might have 2 running in town. I might have 1 going to Sioux Falls or a neighboring town. If the council doesn't help to reduce this, the taxi business is probably going to be annihilated in town. We are working with a multi-billion-dollar Lyft international conglomerate that has a loophole, and they're closing taxis all over the United States, and it's affecting Mitchell right now. You know, when I got that notice of what the city had done here, raising this to $1 million, you know, I had no idea what was going on. And so I responded. I got what literature and information I could as fast as I could, and I got it to Mayor Bob. But I believe the city knows this, but this hardship will make it more difficult to maintain the business expectations and standards that my wife and I have built in 8.5 years. We provide a very necessary service to Countryside Living, LiveQuest, CCC, Safe House, Avera Hospital, Stepping Stones, Grasslands, Police Department, along with the general public. We are the only taxi service working 362 days a year. We have designated hours that are posted. No one else does. 19 small businesses advertise on my taxis. When I have 5 taxis that are licensed, I have 19 small businesses that advertise and promote my business along with promoting themselves. I do charge for that advertising. That's what helps pay for my insurance. If the council continues with this $1 million increase, it'll devastate us. Obviously, these small businesses that do advertise with us, they know that if they didn't advertise for the taxi, public transportation, that there would be no taxi. That helps me subsidize the increase or the insurance that I've had in the past, as well as helping their own businesses prosper when they advertise with us. Please consider this change in the policy for the sake of our small business. I would think state could regulate Lyft insurance liability, and the city, if they have bylaws or concerns, then they make their ordinances adjusting to the state and for Lyft, and let the city regulate the taxi's insurance just like they have in the past. But this increase will definitely hurt. Obviously, it's a tax write-off, but you're expecting me to come up with, you know, $6,600, almost $7,000 by December 31st.
not a whole lot of warning, council. So I would just, ask that you consider what this would do for the taxis, not only mine. There's another taxi in town, and I know it's going to definitely affect their outcome too, as to whether they'll be doing business in Mitchell. We love our taxi business. We've been doing it for 8.5 years. We've worked very hard at it. I think we have a very good reputation here in town, and we service a lot of people. And without it, it'd be really tough. If you have any questions, that's all I have to say.
I was going to ask you a question, Mr. Streetman. You said you've been in business 8.5 years. Was during that time, did we have the $1 million on? I can't remember the years that you said.
It was 2011, so at least part of that would have been at the $1 million.
Okay. So what's different in your business now? You have more taxis, or the insurance per taxi has gone up, or all the
Both,
above?
all the above, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing this ordinance does is it allows the council to make those changes via resolution rather than having to bring the ordinance back every time. Just for your information.
And remind me again of the other cities that you checked out. You said Aberdeen and Yankton?
Yankton, Aberdeen, and Watertown? Is that what you-
Yes, correct, yeah.
Mr. Streetman actually provided the information. I have
Okay.
their ordinances here. I think Mr.
They're all five.
Johnson looked into those as well.
Right, and I think just about every one of them that sets an actual dollar amount in their ordinance is at the 500,000. There's a few of them that don't set the dollar amount in the ordinance. I know Brookings for sure sets theirs by resolution, but I didn't hear back a number on theirs. So I doubt that it was at the million, so it was probably at the 500,000 level.
I will make the motion to set the level back at 300,000. But I don't know if this is legal in Robert's rules, but to also put the stipulation that we review it the second meeting in November of 2020 for the level, or would we do that annually anyway?
I guess if you're just approving this ordinance, it would allow you to do that and consider it by resolution whenever council felt appropriate.
Okay, so I'll make the motion to put it at 300,000.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Rice.
So 300,000 was the way the ordinance was written. If that's what you are, then we just need first reading.
Okay, then I'll move
Approval of first reading.
approval of first reading.
Okay, is there a second?
And I'll second that. And I think another point that Mr. Streetman brought up is if we were changing this now in December, he's got 30 days to find the cash to start the new year. I like your idea of early in the year, but we may want to, if we're going to look at it, we may want to do it at the end of the quarter, the end of the third quarter.
Yep.
I don't know, Steve, if that would work.
It was-
At least give them a little more time. If we're going to change anything, at least it gives them an opportunity to at least plan for
Yeah,
it.
my intent was to have time frame to either have discussion, who knows, in 9 months, maybe the whole taxi world changes again. I'm not sure, but to at least have time to react was the intent.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the council and the mayor sticking up for small business. Thank you.
Further discussion? Anybody else in the audience wish to address it?
Lori Clausen, Lori's Lift. I completely agree with everything Mr. Streetman said. We work very well together. I do want to mention, I just took out my life insurance in order to pay for this extra insurance, and right now I have to get rid of my party bus that has been used for a lot of different weddings and et cetera in town. I'm going to have to get rid of that because I can't afford to insure it. I do have 2 minivans that I will do my best to keep running. I am the only company that's open from Monday nights to Thursday nights from midnight till 2 a.m. So I have the downtown bars that rely on me to get their patrons home safely. With this increase, there's just no way I can run. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Being no further business, we're adjourned.